Good afternoon, welcome to Market Wrap, episode number 112. Market Wrap is APW's weekly flyby of the UK housing market. Stuart Williamson here at the helm. We put these out weekly on our videos, these videos on our YouTube channel, to keep you all informed about what's going on in the UK market. It's not biased, okay, it's quite positive because I'm a positive person, I like to do that. But we think the more information you have, the better your decisions will be, and that applies whether you're a prospective client and want us to help you at APW. If you don't, APW is here if you need us. Just get in touch, we'll give you some advice, some help, some research, and we'll help you make it about a yes or no decision on buying property or not. Please do watch because the video might give you something new, you might like it. If you do like it, please subscribe, click the like button, comment, all those sort of things. Well, no really negative comments this week, so it must have been pretty boring last week. It's always interesting to hear other people's perspectives. Right, now there's no doubt, I mean no one can doubt this, we are in turbulent times, troublesome times. The war in the Ukraine continues to have a global impact as the Northern Hemisphere heads into the winter. Energy costs are still a huge worry for people as it gets colder and temperatures drop. You know, it gets darker at night, quite a depressing place. You know, these short days, long nights can be. Economies are being hit by high inflation rates. Central banks are reacting by raising interest rates, causing lenders to raise the cost of borrowing, or in some cases remove the borrowing ability completely. The expectation is we'll all have to tighten our belts and get ready for a rollercoaster ride of gloomy news, gloomy commentary, gloomy forecast for the gloomy foreseeable future. And that's what it's all about, it seems to me. You know, everyone is saying the end is nigh. And I know I've said this, and I know quite a few people don't like that, but it's the truth. You know, you got to look on the positive side of stuff. There are positive parts of the property market out there. I was listening to the Queen's, one of the Queen's speeches, and she said once, perhaps we make too much of what is wrong and too little of what is right. The trouble with gloom is that it feeds upon itself, and depression causes more depression. I think that was a quote from her during her funeral. Now, I'm not saying life's going to be a bed of roses, and it's not. You know, it's just that we should take a beat, take a moment, and try and look at this current situation from all angles. You know, the whole of the property market is not stuffed. Some bits will be, but not all of it. And you've got to look out for those places to try and find how you can make the most of it. Now, David Smith, very well respected journalist, wrote in the Sunday Times a great article, Is There Going to Be a Housing Crash in 2022? His concluding comments were, the housing market is a market, and a market consists of buyers and sellers. In the crash of the early 1990s, there were many forced sellers unable to cope with the sky-high interest rates that came around. Only if the same thing happens again will there be a crash. New housing supply has rarely kept up with demand, and in the market for existing homes, estate agents usually bemoan the fact that there's not enough property coming out into market. You know, you see their windows full of sold signs. Now that could change. It will be a difficult winter, and we should all take predictions of a crash or a correction seriously. But it's far from guaranteed. Prices might stagnate rather than drop sharply. That's taken directly from his article. He's a very well-known writer. If you look at the bottom of this wrap, there's a link to where he talks about that. In the article, he makes the point that the housing market is affected by many factors. Interest rates are one of them, and the fears of 6 or even 7% mortgage rates will have an impact on house prices. Price drops of between 5 and 10% are possible. But these come against a backdrop of surprising years of house price inflation. Basically what happened during lockdown, I think, caught everyone by surprise. Runaway house prices peaked at 15.5% annual price inflation in July just of this year. House prices are another victim of market volatility. The house price numbers reflect the fact that only a small percentage of housing is for sale at any one time, so they're sensitive to changes in supply and demand. They also reflect the fact that the UK housing market has a sophisticated buy-to-let market for both UK and many overseas investors. who are willing to be part of the UK's private rented sector. He goes on to say, from overseas, a weak pound looks a buying opportunity. For a sensible investor who takes a longer term perspective, the month-on-month ups and downs are not the most important factors. The deeper concern would be of a long recession leading to a prolonged fall in the numbers. Even with all the present uncertainty, the risks of massive economic crash seem low. So that is from a well-renowned journalist, not me. Now, I've talked about this before in the market wrap, the ups and downs of supply and demand, and so on and so forth. In most parts of the UK, there haven't been building enough houses for a long time, for one reason or another. Lack of impetus, NIMBYs, all those sorts of things. This has led to a lack of supply nationally, but sometimes also locally and acutely in many of the micro markets around the country. Demographics can change as well. Students flocking into a town can put pressure on student rentals if there aren't enough places to rent. In other places there might not be enough housing for young families near good schools, or perhaps jobs have picked up in a region and there's a shortage of detached homes for high earners. Now, finding these little quirks in the market in the local areas can lead to niche portfolios outperforming the average figures, and that's what we need to do, is find those things, and that's what we try to help people do at APW. I mean, sometimes you might get an oversupply of one kind of property in a particular market. If you take, for example, a glut of one-bed flats from a rash of overdevelopment in a single neighbourhood, such as is currently happening in Liverpool, where they've stopped the construction of any more one-bed flats, and did happen in 9 Elms in London near the new American Embassy. It also happened in Spain when a spectacular oversupply of housing led to a bubble bursting in the worldwide market crash of 2008. Prices in Spain went up by a factor of 3 in 16 years, 1990 to 2006. Euro membership of 1999 fueled the boom, as well as the EU low interest rate environment, and demand for property rocketed. Unusually for property bubbles, supply climbed as well. With those prices and with the construction, it grew more quickly in Spain than all of Germany, France, Italy and the UK combined during this period. And consequently, in the global crash of 2008, it was very badly felt in Spain, because there's just a phenomenal amount of unsold flats. There's still unsold ones now. The events in Spain are an interesting case study for students of property markets, but are an object lesson in how supply and demand can be skewed, not just during the boom years, but also in the subsequent downturn. In the UK, for the most part, there is still an undersupply of homes. So let us look for areas with good transport links, a thriving population, including preferably some students, so it's balanced out, and a solid and now diverse employment prospect across all the different industrial sectors. That's what we call ties: transport, infrastructure, employment. Rightmove in its September market report gave an interesting twist to looking at different sorts of markets that you can buy in. And they say the overall market remains surprisingly resilient despite headwinds. Yes, I know they're going to say that because they've got skin in the game. Demand continues to ease slightly from the heady levels of last year as expected, but even with a fall in first-time buyer demand, total demand is only down by 2% on the same period in 2021, and stamp duty cuts could stimulate more demand going forward. Compared with the pre-pandemic 5-year average, that's really boring, all these figures, pre-pandemic 5-year average, total buyer demand is up by 20%. The number of homes coming to the market has risen by 16% this month compared to this time last year, which means it's returned to the 2019 levels. But if you look into those actual figures, they say that the price growth this month is driven predominantly by the middle and high-end market sectors, with the second stepper category, which is 3 bedrooms and non-detached with 4 bedrooms, reaching a new record average asking price, £340,000. Buyer demand in these sectors is up by 2% even compared to the frenetic markets of last year, while more choice is now also available compared to 2021. And we're seeing this just outside Cambridge. 3 and 4 bed, detached, semi-detached houses, great area, good family location, close to good employers, going through the roof. These figures suggest that for those who can, moving up the ladder to a home with more space remains a priority, even at a time when personal finances are stretched, when there's all this gloom on the horizon. The point is that even in a housing market plagued with uncertainty, there are sections of the market where strong demand will support strong prices. Okay? This is the important thing. Don't just throw the baby out with the bathwater. There are still good locations. Time spent peering at numbers from different agent reports, such as Nationwide, Savills, can help identify some subtler trends. During the pandemic, the race to space caught a lot of people out. It certainly did me. The number of people leaving city centres. At the same time, the dash back into the cities, as we're seeing now, is seeing people making money in city centres. Smaller units though, parts of houses, studios and 1 beds. It's a smaller, you've got to know those markets are doing well, which is what we try and help people with. The more knowledge you have of an area, the more you can spot good buying opportunities, even in a flat or a falling marketplace. Also, think about your strategy. A couple of areas that we have done extremely well with this year, and it seems to a certain extent ring fence from these problems, is HMOs, or houses of multiple occupancy. Basically, they're house shares. It's where tenants rent individual rooms instead of whole houses, and they share the kitchens and the bathrooms. With this COVID dash back to the cities, a lot of people want a pied-à-terre, a foot in town, as well as their home out of town. So you have an individual agreement with each renter, and the advantage of that is if one moves out, you don't lose the whole rent on the whole house or the whole flat. You lose a quarter or a third or a fifth. So that's a very positive cash flow tool. Okay, HMOs are harder to manage because there's 4 people's problems instead of 1 person's problems. And then if you were to get into the student world, you might think of going north of the border, because north of the border, the parents and the students have to sign the lease. So it's a good idea to factor in the bigger costs you have, like insurance, maintenance, certificates for electric, gas and energy and so on and so forth, and more wear and tear. In fact, I would personally suggest employ a professional manager or group to manage your property. It's worth its weight in gold because you don't have to worry about it. You can just pay a little bit more to them, but take the benefit. And if you roll this strategy into the second strategy, which is BRRR, which is not what's going to be happening in the UK this winter, because it's going to be so cold, we've all got to turn the thermostats down. It's buy, renovate, refinance, rent out. An example, of that is a 3-bed flat we just did in Dundee, which is in Gowrie Street. It's the west end of Dundee. It was £155,000 purchase price. So we took out a bridging loan on that. The good thing is the bridging loan's over 100, which means it's cheap and easy to get. Spent £42,000 on refurb costs, gives a total value of just under 200,000. Then it's remortgaged. You take out the excess cash, leave 50 in there, 75% loan to value. The rental yield is 9.8%, and that is rented to students at the University of Dundee. What mortgages could we get on it for the final part? We source a standard 4.7% tracker and a separate 5.5% tracker with a 50% offset for cash balances in a current account. 2 great deals that are well covered by the rental and have proven very popular with clients at the moment. So that's it this week. Thanks for watching. Please comment, click, like, subscribe, recommend us to other people. Fill in the form at the bottom if you wish to send us your details, and we'll get in touch with our free ebook, perhaps on HMOs, or ebook on buy to let. 3 things to remember. Things are never quite as bad as they seem. every cloud has a silver lining, and keep calm and carry on. Thank you. Bye-bye.